Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and I'm bringing you as a review for Need for Speed Most Wanted Limited Edition for the PlayStation 3. Now, I've spent the last few days answering questions and discussing the ins and outs of this title on my channel, and overall I'll have to admit I'm pretty impressed with what they were able to accomplish with this game. They were able to take the best elements from both Burnout Paradise and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit and twist them into the core mechanics and foundation for the gameplay on here and add a very impressive graphical polish on top of all of it. And if you enjoyed either of those titles, you really don't need a review to tell you you're going to enjoy this game. There's no doubt in my mind that it's going to receive high review scores and praise once it releases, but there are a few downsides that are easy to point out that do take it down a notch or two. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into the review. Very impressive. That's pretty much how I would sum up the graphics in a nutshell. For me personally, the two most important features on any racing title are going to be the controls, but also an actual sense of speed. And the sense of speed on here is blazing fast, and it looks great in the process. But there are a couple issues with it. It can actually get to the point that it can be too fast at times, and coupled with the issue that the checkpoints can sometimes be hard to see, especially the ones positioned directly around a sharp corner, or if you're driving with the sun in your eyes, this can definitely add an extra layer of difficulty that some may not enjoy. There will be times that you'll be forced to slow down as you try to determine the next turn, or shift your attention down to the map in the corner. The green arrow walls that appear in a handful of the races do a great job of directing which way you need to turn, and it's somewhat confusing as to why they didn't use this feature throughout all of the races. This would have certainly eliminated any missed turns and checkpoints. I did notice a slight split-second pause during the racing on occasion. I would say maybe once an hour, so it wasn't really an issue, but it's still worth pointing out. While the game doesn't feature an actual story, it does have some very mesmerizing dreamlike cutscenes that appear before every event, which helps give some flavor and purpose behind going through each race. I spent half a video this week just discussing the game's difficulty because for a racing title this one's actually pretty tough. It doesn't have an annoying rubber banding AI as far as I can tell, but it does leave very little room for error on the medium to difficult races unless you're participating in a longer race. The computer is absolutely brutal in its attempts to not only take your car out, but they regularly go after one another as well. Some races feel like you're in a pack of wrecking balls just leaving a path of destruction on the way to the finish line. The controls are perfect, any mistake made during a race was my own, and I never once felt frustrated even when retrying multiple times on the same event. You have two views to race in, the standard behind the car camera and a first person front bumper cam. And the first person view sucks, plain and simple. There's no other way to put it. I can't see many gamers wanting to race in that viewpoint because of how low you are to the ground. It would make it very difficult to be as effective in that viewpoint compared to the standard behind the car view. The HUD also can't be removed or changed, so what you see is what you get. With the map being in the bottom left corner, it took a little bit of an adjustment on my end to get comfortable with it being down there. While the game features a pretty robust single-player experience, the online is going to be what leaves a lasting impression for most. There's a few cheesy events tossed in, such as the longest jump distance events, but most of the rest are actually a lot of fun. Drifting, takedowns, and team racing should provide enough enjoyment to keep the online community going strong long after this game's release. I only saw a few instances of a lag spike in the 4 hours of testing out the online servers, so it appears as if they're running pretty good pre-release. As far as the downsides mentioned in the opening, there are a couple big ones worth discussing. While it is an open world and you're free to go after your favorite car the moment that you cut the game on, each car only gets a few assigned races before you'll need to switch to another car to continue the leveling process. There's no real customization to speak of. You do get a few upgrades to switch a couple parts on each car out, but it's more focused on fast-paced action and less on tedious tinkering with the cars. I also personally wish there were more than just 10 most wanted racers to take down, since that is the focus of the single-player campaign. It would have been nice to have 2 or 3 times that amount to go after, but it's possible this could be extended with DLC at some point in the future. While I have spent a good portion of my review pointing out the game's several flaws and nitpicks, when you boil it all down and look at the overall package, this is a great game worth a day one purchase. Quality and value wise, it's on the same level as Burnout Paradise and Hot Pursuit. I'm not quite sure if I would place it ahead of those two titles, but the argument could be made that it is a better game in certain categories. However, if you like the simulation style racers such as the Gran Turismo and Forza series, then you may end up disappointed with the lack of in-depth customization options. This one's all about super fast arcade style racing, and while it doesn't offer much that hasn't already been seen in other previous games that came before it, it does have a high level of polish, perfect controls, nice looking graphics, and an extremely fun online and offline experience. I've talked about how good the controls are in several previous videos before this review, but just the amount of responsiveness and the ability to maneuver each and every car properly puts this title pretty high up in my own list of favorite racing titles. You can tell an immediate difference in the handling and engine sound effects when switching vehicles, and finding a vehicle that suits your own playstyle is one of the funner challenges on this game. There's enough to do on here to keep your attention for several weeks, and it's a title that I would recommend if you enjoy arcade racers. Anyways, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thanks for stopping by.